Hey family, how y'all doing? Hope everyone is having a good night thus far. Um, with that being said, stay warm. I know that there are a lot of different areas that are um having some pretty bad weather. So get in and stay warm. Give me a second as I load my other pages. I'm still here, not going anywhere. I got no other place to be except for here right now. And this is the most important place to be to me. So we're gonna hang out for a little bit. What I wanted to make sure we we remembered is where we are in the readings and where we're going. So we've gone through the Egyptian Book of the Dead. We've done plates 1 through 10. We've done plates 1 through 10, and tonight I'm going to attempt to do plates 11 through 20, depending on the length of the actual ceremonies that we're dealing with right now. But that's where we're headed. And as usual, I just wanted to remind everyone that this is for educational purposes only. This is not a view of my personal beliefs. If you want to have that conversation, hit me up and we'll talk about that one on one. But this again is nothing more, nothing less than a continuation of research through a body of works, different scripts that allow us to understand a different aspect, a different perspective of other religions, other beliefs, as it were. Um, so that's what we are doing right now. All right. So let me reduce a few things so that I can make sure that we are set up properly. Having a few technical. It looks like everything's all right. I'm gonna keep rocking steady. I'm gonna keep rocking steady. So let me go back and grab my handy dandy uh, Egyptian Book of the Dead so that I can continue with my readings. Let's see, one more thing that I gotta do. Looks like I might be having a few network issues. I'm not sure what's going on. I checked my internet earlier and it said that things looked well. They were doing fine. Um, internet is working properly, all that good stuff. But technology does what technology does. Murphy's Law is never out of grasp. It's always right around the corner. Always right around the corner. So we're getting ready to get there. If anyone has read any other good manuscripts lately, send them to me so that I can possibly bring those up also. I can go get them from somewhere and I can do a reading of those as well. If there are any, and this isn't just religious books, because once we're finished with this, I'm going to switch over to another book that I have, Neil deGrasse Tyson, uh, and one of his books about black holes. So yeah, that's where we're going to go with this information. So again, catching everybody up to speed a little bit. Right now we are in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and I am at plate 11. Where Ani has gone through the first, or actually, yeah, he went through the first ceremony, and now he's going through the second part, and he's already passed through the first order of lesser gods with Osiris, as well as Horus being present, as well as Anubis, his wife, so on and so forth. The whole cast has been present. So that is where we are currently. That's where we are currently. So here we go. The Egyptian Book of the Dead, plates 11 through 12 are the immediate uh, starts, beginning points. So If you've missed any, what I'll try and do is go back and repost a few of the videos uh, to catch everybody up to speed. And again, I highly recommend going out and looking into getting this book. It's a wonderful read. It's good times, and you will not be disappointed. It's really really good for, again, personal study, personal research. That's the biggest thing. Understanding where you are in the grand scheme of you trying to find knowledge and you seeking things, because we always think we know, but we don't know until we know. So here we go. Plates 11 through 12. In the upper line of plates 11 and 12, there's a series of seven arets or mansions through which the deceased is supposed to pass. In the lower line are the 10 sepkets or pylon shaped gateways. The first, Ani and his wife, Tutu, approaching the first aret, the cornice of which is ornamented with emblems of power, life, and stability. At the entrance sit three gods, the first having the head of a hare, the second the head of a serpent, and the third the head of a crocodile. The first holds an ear of corn, and each of the others a knife. The first aret. The name of the doorkeeper is Sekeret Asht Aru. The name of the watcher is Metihe. The name of the herald is Ha Kuru. Words to be spoken when Osiris cometh to the first arid in Aminta. Saith Ani, triumphant, when he cometh to the first arid, I am the mighty one who createth his own light. I have come unto thee, O Osiris, and purified from that which defileth thee. I adore thee. Lead on. Name not the name of Restau unto me. Homage to thee, O Osiris, in thy might and in thy strength, in Restau. Rise up and conquer, O Osiris. In Aptu, thou goest round about heaven, thou sailest in the presence of Ra, thou seest all the beings who have knowledge. Hail, Ra, who circlest in the sky. Verily I say unto thee, O Osiris, I am a godlike ruler. Let me let me not be driven hence, nor from the wall of burning coals. I have opened the way in Re Stau. I have eased the pain of Osiris. I have embraced that which the balance I hath weighed. I have made a path for him in the great valley, and he maketh a path. Osiris shineth. Number two, the second Arid, guarded by three gods. The first with the head of a lion, the second the head of a man, and the third the head of a dog. Each one holds a knife. The second Arid. The name of the doorkeeper is Anhat. The name of the watcher is Seket Hra. The name of the herald is Uset. Saith Osiris Ani, when he cometh unto this Arid, he sitteth to do his heart's desire, and he weigheth words as the second of Tath. The strength of Tath humbleth the hidden Maata gods who feed upon Mayat throughout the years of their lives. I make offerings at the moment when he passeth on his way. I pass on and enter the way. Grant thou that I may pass through and that I may gain sight of Ra together with those who maketh offerings. 3. The third Arid, guarded by three gods. The first with the head of a jackal, the second the head of a dog, and the third the head of a serpent. The first holds an ear of corn, and each of the others a knife. The third Aaron. The name of the doorkeeper is Kekatu and Pehiu. The name of the watcher, the name of the watcher is Sirius Ra. The name of the herald is Ai. Saith Osiris Ani, when he cometh to this pit, Aaron, I am hidden in the great deep. I am the judge of Rehui. I have come, and I have done away with the offenses of Osiris. I am building up the standing place which cometh forth from his ureret, or crown. I have done his business in Aptu. I have opened the way in Re Stau. I have eased the pain which was in Osiris. I have made straight his standing place, and I have made his path. He shineth in Re Stau. Number 4. The fourth Aaron, guarded by three gods, the first with the head of a man, the second the head of a hawk, and the third the head of a lion. The first holds an ear of corn, and the corn and each of the others a knife. The fourth Aaron. The name of the doorkeeper is Kesef Ra Asht Karu. The name of the watcher is Seres Tepu. The name of the herald is Kesef At. Saith Osiris, the scribe Ani triumphant, when he cometh to this Aaron, I am the mighty bull, the son of the ancestress of Osiris. O grant ye that his father, the Lord of his godlike companions, may bear witness for him. Here the guilty are weighed in judgment. I have brought unto those his nostrils eternal life. I am the son of Osiris. I have made the way. I have passed thereover into Neter Kurt. The fifth Aaron, guarded by three gods, the first with the head of a hawk, the second the head of a man, and the third the head of a snake. Each holds a knife. The fifth Aaron. Pra Keha Keft. Saith Osiris, the scribe Ani, triumphant, when he cometh to this Aaron, I have brought unto thee the bones of thy jaws in Restau. I have brought thee thy backbone in Anu, gathering together all thy members there. I have driven back a pep for thee. I have poured water upon the wounds. I have made a path among you. I am that ancient one among the gods. I have made the offering of Osiris, who hath triumphed with victory, gathering his bones and bringing them together, all his limbs. Number 6. The sixth Aaron, guarded by three gods, the first with the head of a jackal, and the second and third the head of a dog. The first holds an ear of corn, and each of the others a knife. The sixth Aaron. The name of the doorkeeper is Atek o Kehak Keru. The name of the watcher is Anhi. The name of the herald is Etes Ra. Saith Osiris, the scribe Ani, when he cometh to this Aaron, I have come daily. I have come daily. I have made the way. I have passed along that which was created by Anubis. I am the Lord of the Ureret crown. Magical words. I, the avenger of right and truth, have avenged his eye. I have swathed the eye of Osiris. I have made the way. Osiris Ani hath passed along it with you. Number 7, the seventh Arid, guarded by 3 gods. The first with the head of a hare, the second the head of a lion, and the third the head of a man. The first and second hold a knife, and the third an ear of corn. The seventh Arid, the name of the doorkeeper is Sekum Metinu Sin. The name of the watcher is Aya Mad Karu. And the name of the herald is Kesef Kemi. Saith Osiris, the scribe, Ani, when he cometh to this Arid, I have come unto thee, O Osiris, who art cleansed of thine impurities. Thou goest around about heaven, thou seest Ra, and thou seest the beings who have knowledge. Hail, only one. Behold, thou art the Sektet boat. He goeth round the horizon of heaven. I speak what I will unto his body. It waxeth strong and cometh to life, as he spake. Thou turnest back his face. Prosper thou for me all the ways which lead unto thee. Now, switching focus, we are going into plates 11 through 12, the lower register showing the pylons. So we went through the top, and now we're going through the lower aspect. So let me pause in place real quick. Take a sip of water. I done had the heat on all day. It's cold outside, y'all. It's horribly cold outside, and I'm just trying to stay warm. I ain't went out on purpose. That's for sure. Give me a second. My sister in Japan has sent me a message. I want to make sure I respond to her. Uh, Weird timing. Fortunately, we are in between the readings, so no break. All right, I'm back. All right, so we are picking up at plates 11 through 12, the lower register showing the pylons. That's where we are right now. Let everybody take a quick break. And here we go. Number 1. Ani and his wife, Tutu, with hands raised in adoration, approaching the first sepket, or pylon, which is guarded by a bird-headed deity wearing a disc on his head and sitting in a shrine, the cornice of which is decorated with kakeru ornaments. Now, I don't know what a lot of this stuff means. I'm just reading it as you are, but what I am going to end up doing is I'm going to go back and look at the footnotes. That way, I get a better understanding. And what I'll do again at the end of the readings is I'll go back to the introduction, and that way it gives a little bit more of the historical significance and background and dates of the book, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, in and of itself, so we aren't missing a lot of that information. I like doing that periodically because it does give great information and it helps put into focus what is happening uh, at this juncture with Ani. And it also gives a description of where the plates came from and how they came into being, or better yet, how we came into an understanding of what they were when they were found or refound or rediscovered. Yeah. Number 1, Ani and his wife Tutu. Again, this is starting over with hands raised in adoration, approaching the first sepket or pylon, which is guarded by a bird-headed deity wearing a disc on his head and sitting in a shrine, the cornice of which is decorated with kekaru ornaments. Words to be spoken when Ani cometh unto the first pylon. That's where we are. Saith Osiris Ani, triumphant, Lo, the Lady of Terrors, with lofty walls, the sovereign lady, the mistress of destruction, who uttereth the words which drive back the destroyers, who delivereth from destruction him that travelleth along the way. Name of the doorkeeper is Nerut. Number two, the second pylon, which is guarded by a lion headed deity sitting in a shrine, upon the top of which is a serpent. Words to be spoken when Ani cometh into the second pylon. Saith Osiris, the scribe Ani, triumphant, Lo, the lady of heaven, the mistress of the world, who devoureth with fire, the lady of mortals, how much greater is she than all men? The name of the doorkeeper is Misptah. Number three, the third pylon, which is guarded by a man headed deity, seated in a shrine, the upper part of which is ornamented with the two uchats and the emblems of the orbit of the sun and water, excuse me. Words to be spoken when Ani cometh into the third pylon of the house of Osiris. Saith the scribe Ani, triumphant, Lo, the lady of the altar, the mighty one to whom offerings are made, the beloved of every god, who saileth up to Abtu. The name of the doorkeeper is Sabak. He's coming up to pylon number four, the fourth pylon, which is guarded by a cow-headed deity, seated, seated in a shrine, the cornice of which is ornamented with uri wearing discs. Words to be spoken when Ani cometh unto the fourth pylon. Saith Osiris, the scribe Ani, triumphant, Lo, she who prevaileth with knives, mistress of the world, destroyer of the foes of the steel heart, she who decreeth the escape of the needy from evil hap. The name of the doorkeeper is Nikau. We're going to the fifth pylon as he's continuing on his journeys. The fifth pylon, which is guarded by the hippopotamus deity, with her forefeet resting upon the buckle, the emblem of protection, seated in a shrine, the cornice of which is ornamented with symbols emblematic of flames of fire. Words to be spoken when Ani cometh unto the fifth pylon. Saith Osiris, the scribe Ani, triumphant, Lo, the flame, the lady of breath, for the nostrils. One may not advance to entreat her, one may not advance to entreat her, shall not come into her presence. The name of the doorkeeper is Hentet Ariki. Going to the seventh pylon. I'm sorry, looks like I skipped. My apologies. The sixth pylon. The sixth pylon, which is guarded by a deity in the form of a man holding a knife and a besom, and seated in a shrine, above which is a serpent. I should have been recording this. Words to be spoken when Ani cometh unto the sixth pylon. Saith Osiris, the scribe Ani, triumphant, Lo, the lady of light, the mighty one, to whom men cry aloud. Man knoweth neither her breadth nor her height. There was never found her like from the beginning. There is a serpent thereover whose size is not known. It was born in the presence of the still heart. The name of the doorkeeper is Samadhi. We're moving on to the seventh pylon. The seventh pylon, which is guarded by a ram-headed deity holding a besom and seated in a shrine, the cornice of which is decorated with kakaru ornaments. Words to be spoken when Ani cometh unto the seventh pylon. Saith Osiris, describe Ani triumphant. Lo, the robe which doth clothe thee, feeble one, or the deceased, weeping for what it loveth and shroudeth. The name of the doorkeeper is Sectif. That was fast. Moving to the eighth pylon. The eighth pylon, which is guarded by a hawk, wearing the crowns of the north and south, seated on a sepulchral chest with closed doors. Before him is a besom, and behind him is the Uchat. Above the shrine are two human-headed hawks, emblems of the souls of Ra and Osiris, and two emblems of life. Words to be spoken when Ani cometh unto the eighth pylon. Saith Osiris, describe Ani triumphant. Lo, the blazing fire, the flame whereof cannot be quenched, with tongues of flame which reach afar. The slaughtering one, the irresistible, through which one may not pass by reason of the hurt which it doth. The name of the doorkeeper is Khrushchev F. Ani's continuing along his path and he's getting through these pylons as best as possible. And he's doing a good job so far. He's continuing his movements. He's not stopping. And it's good. I appreciate what's happening here. It's reminded me of a lot of different things that happen in the craft. Anyway, the ninth pylon. The ninth pylon, which is guarded by a lion-headed deity wearing a disc and holding a besom, seated in a shrine, the cornice of which is ornamented with uraei wearing discs. Words to be spoken. Ani cometh unto the ninth pylon. Saith Osiris Ani, triumphant. Lo, she who is chiefest, the lady of strength, who giveth quiet of heart to her Lord. Her girth is 350 measures. She is clothed with mother of emerald of the south, and she raiseth up the godlike form and clotheth the feeble one. The name of the doorkeeper is Ari Su Chesef. Chesef. These names are hard, y'all. Pylon number 10. The 10th pylon, which is guarded by a ram-headed deity wearing the Atef crown and holding a besom, seated in a shrine, upon the top of which are two serpents. Words to be spoken when Ani cometh unto the 10th pylon. Saith Osiris Ani, triumphant. Lo, she who is loud of voice, she who causeth those to cry who entreat her, the fearful one who terrifieth, who feareth none that are therein. The name of the doorkeeper is Sekun Ur. Sekun Ur. And that completes plate 11. So in plate 11, it's talking about Ani going through the various different movements of deity and making sure that the correct words and phrases are spoken to the correct deity that are guarding those areas as doorkeepers. I wish I could show some of these actual pictures because it gives me a better visual of what's happening or what it might look like. Um, I've described everything that it looks like as the words list, but seeing the actual hieroglyphics gives you a better bit of a testament as to how the movement would look and how it works, especially when talking about the upper pylons versus the lower pylons, and the description of the different deity that are guarding, or the doorkeepers that are in the areas of these different deity. So I'll figure that out. Maybe I'll take some pictures before I start reading and start flashing the screens as we go along. We'll see. That's a lot of work, though. I don't know if I'm up for it. I don't know if I'm up for it. Anyway, my daughter just sent me a text. Oh, I love my babies. Anyway, we're moving on to plate 12. That was just plate 11. I wanted to get through plate 20, but oh, yeah, plate 12 seems to be a bit short. Plate 13, however, looks to be longer. Plate 14. I don't know why I'm trying to get to the freaking plate 20. I'm tripping. I got all week. So I'm not going to get to plate 20 tonight. My apologies. Let me reel that back in real quick. I'll get through plate 14 to continue this small series, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll pick up from 15 and go to 17 to 18. And then after that, this week we'll finish off at plate 20 at the very least. So check back in on Wednesday when I finish off these few plates. But this week is going to be spent in plates 11 through 20. I might need to slow down on some of these readings, huh? Anyway, plate 12, upper register is what it says. The priest Anmat F, who has on the right side of his head the lock of Heru Parat, or Horus the Child, and who wears a leopard skin, introducing Ani and his wife to the gods whose names are given in plates 13 and 14. So these other characters, we won't know their names until later. And Matef saith, I have come unto you, O mighty and godlike rulers, who are in heaven and in earth, and under the earth. I have brought unto you Osiris Ani. He hath not sinned against any of the gods. Grant ye that he may be with you for all time. The adoration of Osiris, Lord of Re-Stau, and of the great company of the gods who are in the netherworld beside Osiris. The scribe Ani, who saith, Homage to thee, O ruler of Amentu. Unefer within Aptu, I have come unto thee, and my heart holdeth right and truth. There is no sin in my body, nor have I lied willfully, nor have I done aught with a false heart. Grant thou to me food in the tomb, and that I may come into thy presence at the altar of the Lords of right and truth, and that I may enter into and come forth from the netherworld, my soul not being turned back, and that I may behold the face of the sun, and that I may behold the moon forever and ever. Moving on to plate 12, the lower register. The priest Semerfef, who has on the right side of his head the lock of Heru Pakrat, and wears a leopard's skin, introducing Ani and his wife to the gods whose names are given in plates 13 and 14. Semerfef saith, I have come unto you, O godlike rulers, who are in Re-Stau, and I have brought unto you Osiris Ani. Grant ye to him, as to the followers of Horus, cakes and water, and air, and a homestead in Sekhet Hetep. The adoration of Osiris, the Lord of everlastingness, and of all the godlike rulers of Re-Stau, by Osiris, the scribe Ani, who saith, Homage to thee, O King of Aminta, Prince of Ekert. I have come unto thee. I know thy ways. I am furnished with the forms which thou takest in the world. Grant thou to me a place in the underworld, near unto the lords of right and truth. May my homestead be abiding in Sekert Hetep, and may I receive cake in thy presence. Now, I'm looking at plate 13, and I am currently deciding whether or not I am going to hold off on plate 13. And it looks like I'm going to push through. Hopefully, I don't read past where I want to because I wanted to make sure that these next few plates are for this week. I think I might pause because the previous plate, plate 12, on both areas, it gives reference to future plates, which are 13 and 14. And it talks about the names of the gods that he's going to have to continue on with. You know what? I'm gonna push forward, people. I'm gonna do it. We gonna go. You coming with me? Let's do it. Plate 13. This is the upper register, and it reads as thus: a pylon or gateway surmounted by the feathers of Mayat and Uriah wearing discs. Lower register, a pylon surmounted by Anubis and an Uchat. Hail Thoth, who madest Osiris victorious over his enemies, make thou Osiris, the scribe Ani, to be victorious over his enemies, as thou didst make Osiris victorious over his enemies. In the presence of the godlike rulers who are with Ra and Osiris and Anu, on the night of the things for the night, and on the night of battle, and on the shackling of the fiends, and on the day of the destruction of Nebuchadnezzar, or Nebuchadnezzar, maybe. I don't know. A. The gods Timu, Shu, Tefnut, Osiris, and Thoth. The great godlike rulers in Anu are Timu, Shu, Tefnut, Osiris, and Thoth. And the shackling of Sebau significant that it signifieth the destruction of the fiends of Set when he worketh evil a second time. Hail Thoth, who madest Osiris victorious over his enemies. Make thou Osiris Ani to be victorious over his enemies in the presence of the great divine beings who are in Tatu, on the night of making the Tat to stand up in Tatu. B. The god Osiris, Isis, excuse me, the gods Osiris, Isis, Nephthys, and Horus. The great godlike rulers in Tatu are Osiris, Isis, Nephthys, and Horus, the avenger of his father. Now the night of making the Tat to stand up in Tatu signifieth the lifting up of the arm and shoulder of Osiris, Lord Asekum. These gods stand behind Osiris to protect him, even as the swathings which clothe him. Hail Thoth, who madest Osiris victorious over his enemies. Make thou the Osiris Ani triumphant over his enemies in the presence of the great godlike rulers who are in Sekhem on the night of the things of the night festival in Sekhem. And it goes into C. The gods Osiris and Horus, two Uchats upon pylons, and the god Thoth. The great godlike rulers who are in Sekhem are Horus, who is without sight, and Thoth, who is with the godlike rulers of Narura. Yeah, not dang these names. Nareratuf. Now, the night of the things of the night festival in Sechems signifieth the light of the rising sun of the coffin of Osiris. Hail, Thoth, who madest Osiris victorious over his enemies, make thou the Osiris Ani triumphant over his enemies in the presence of the godlike rulers in Pe and Tep on the night of setting up the columns of Horus and of making him the established heir of the things which belong to his father. D. The gods Horus, Isis, Meshta, and Hapi. Now, these gods were also mentioned in previous ceremonies, but this is just a continuation of different ceremonies that the book describes. The great divine rulers who are in Pe and Tep are Horus, Isis, Meshta, and Hapi. Now, setting up the columns of Horus signifieth the command given by Set unto his followers. Set up columns upon it. Hail Thoth, who madest Osiris victorious over his enemies, make thou the Osiris Ani triumphant over his enemies in the presence of the great godlike rulers in Rekit on the night when Isis lay down to keep watch in order to make lamentation for her brother Osiris. And I will cross that bridge again in the introduction. It does talk about Osiris and Isis being married and Set and Nephthys being married, although they're all brothers and sisters. All right, anyway, we're going on to E. The gods Osiris, Isis, Anubis, Meshta, and Thoth. The great godlike rulers who are in Rekit are Isis, Horus, and Meshta. Hail Thoth, who madest Osiris victorious over his enemies. Make thou the Osiris, the scribe Ani, triumphant in peace, to be victorious over his enemies in the presence of the great godlike ones who are in Aptu, on the night of the god Neker, at the separation of the wicked dead, at the judgment of spirits made just, and at the rising of joy in Tenu. Plate 14. It starts with F. The gods Osiris, Isis, and Ap-Uat, and the Tet. The great godlike rulers who are in Aptu are Osiris, Isis, and Ap-Uat. Hail, Thoth, who madest Osiris victorious over his enemies. Make thou the Osiris Ani, the scribe and teller of the sacred offerings of all the gods, to be victorious over his enemies in the presence of the godlike rulers who judge the dead on the night of the condemnation of those who are to be blotted out. G. The gods Thoth, Osiris, Anubis, and Astenu. The great godlike rulers in the judgment of the dead are Thoth, Osiris, Anubis, and Astenu. Now, condemnation of those who are to be blotted out is the withholding of that which is so needful to the souls of the children of impotent revolt. Hail, Thoth, who madest Osiris victorious over his enemies, makest thou the Osiris, the scribe Ani, triumphant, to be victorious over his enemies in the presence of the great godlike rulers, on the festival of the breaking and turning up of the earth in Tatu, on the night of the breaking and turning up of the earth in their blood, and making Osiris to be victorious over his enemies. The three gods of the festival of breaking up the earth in Tatu. This is letter H. When the fiends of Set come and change themselves into beasts, the great godlike rulers, on the festival of the breaking and turning up of the earth in Tatu, slay them in the presence of the gods therein, and their blood floweth among them as they are smitten down. These things are allowed to be done by them by the judgment of those who are in Tatu. Hail Thoth, who madest Osiris victorious over his enemies. Make thou the Osiris Ani to be victorious over his enemies in the presence of the godlike rulers who are in Neretef, on the night of him who concealeth himself in his diverse forms, even Osiris. The gods Ra, Osiris, Shu, and Bebi, dog-headed. The great godlike rulers who are in Neratef are Ra, Osiris, Shu, and Bebi. Now the night of him who concealeth himself in the divers forms, even Osiris's, is when the thigh and the head and the heel and the leg are brought not nigh unto the coffin of Osiris, Un Nefer. Hail Thoth, who has madest Osiris victorious over his enemies, makest thou the Osiris Ani triumphant before Osiris, victorious over his enemies in the presence of the great godlike rulers who are in Restau, on the night when Anubis lay with his arms, his hands over his things behind Osiris, and when Horus was made to triumph over his enemies. J. The gods Horus, Osiris, Isis, and for this text, there's a parentheses and a question mark because I guess they couldn't figure out who the next deity in that procession was going to actually be. But it continues. The great godlike rulers in Restau are Horus, Osiris, and Isis. The heart of Osiris rejoiceth in the heart of Horus and is glad, and therefore are the east and the west at peace. Hail Thoth, who madest Osiris victorious over his enemies. Make thou the Osiris Ani, the scribe and teller of the divine offerings of all the gods, to triumph over his enemies in the presence of the 10 companies of great godlike rulers who are with Ra and with Osiris, and with every god and goddess in the presence of Nebuchadnezzar. He hath destroyed his enemies, and he hath destroyed every evil thing belonging unto him. Rubric. This chapter being recited, the deceased shall come forth by day, purified after the death, and he shall make all the forms or transformations which his heart shall dictate. Now, if this chapter be recited over him, he shall come forth upon earth. He shall escape from every fire, and none of the foul things which appertain unto him shall encompass him for everlasting and forever and forever. And I will quit the readings of the plates there, and I will pause for a second. Uh, Tomorrow at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, again, I'll begin to read plates 15 through quite possibly plate 17, depending on what the ceremonies look like and how long they are. Some of these ceremonies, like in the beginning, were fairly drawn out with various different words that were a part of the ceremonies to be recited during the procession of Ani as he continued his journeys through the different areas of the underworld, as well as when his body was taken back through the second major ceremony, where his mummification, well, after his mummification, the mouth was open as well as everything removed from his ears, so on and so forth. But you'll see that in a second, in a moment here, as I go back to the introduction. I think it's going to be a good habit of me to get into to read the introduction because it does give a good background and historical aspect of these ceremonies that are happening. And it would it helps establish some of the why of what's going on and what's happening. So tonight I'll stop at plate 15, but I will breathe in a second. I got to get some water, but in a second I'm gonna go back and I will read the introduction. Excuse me, the introduction in its entirety. Because again, it's worth the read, it's worth the understanding, and it's worth the assistance to the reader. I want to make sure I get it all. It looks like I missed some pages, and I don't want to do that. But before I do that, while we wait, mhm. All right, got that in me. Got that in me. So I will start the introduction again. This is the Egyptian Book of the Dead. This is for educational purposes only. My watch is telling me it's time to stand, but I'm not about to. This is translated by E.A. Wallace Budge and edited with an introduction by John Baldock. So by the end of this, we will have read all 37 plates, and I'll probably read some of the end notes. Um, if you do get this, happen to get this book, I highly recommend getting it. That way you can look at the illustrations that are paired with the actual plates. But it would do you would do well by going and looking at some of the footnotes, because it does have some very good footnotes added to it. All right, going back to the introduction. To set the Egyptian Book of the Dead in its wider context, we need to remember that the civilization of ancient Egypt, the Egypt of the pharaohs, endured for well over 3,000 years before it came to an end with its annexation by Rome in around 30 BC. Periods of political strife and upheaval were balanced by times of peace and prosperity, the most significant of which coincide with the periods known as the Old Kingdom, which lasted 2650 to 2152 BC, the Middle Kingdom, 1986 through 1759 BC, and the New Kingdom, 1539 through 1069 BC. It was during the New Kingdom that the Book of the Dead, as we know it, emerged, but the ideas and beliefs expressed in it had gradually evolved over the preceding 2,000 years or longer, shaped by a combination of the Egyptians' experience of everyday life, the landscape in which they lived, and historical events. The annual flooding of the Nile, on which the fertility of the land bordering the great river depended, and the orbital movement of the sun, moon, and stars led to the belief that life followed a recurring cyclical pattern. Moreover, the universe appeared to be governed by an internal cosmic order, Ma'at, within which everything had its rightful place. Even human life, whose principal phases of birth, youth, parenthood, old age, and death were compressed into a lifespan of about 35 years, was an integral part of this cosmic order. Like other ancient civilizations, the Egyptians expressed their beliefs through myths in which the exploits of the gods personified both visible phenomena and the invisible forces that drove the cyclical patterns governing the universe. The myths and the religion they inspired underwent a considerable evolution in the millennia prior to the emergence of the Book of the Dead, influenced partly by shifts in regional power and partly by the priests who attended to the temples and cult centers in cities up and down the Nile. However, two elements remained constant: the prominence of the various gods associated with the sun, Ra, Horus, and Aten, and the central role of the king or pharaoh. The latter made offerings to the gods on behalf of his subjects, and the gods reciprocated by giving life to the pharaoh and his people. According to the Book of the Dead, a similar reciprocal arrangement was believed to sustain the life and deceased after his or her entombment. Of the many myths left behind by the ancient Egyptians, there is one that is particularly relevant for the Book of the Dead, which is the myth of Osiris. The full myth is quite lengthy, but its principal elements are as follows. The sky goddess Nut and the earth god Geb, or Jeb, I'm not sure how to pronounce that properly, I'm doing my best here, had four children: two sons, Osiris and Set, and two daughters, Isis and Nephthys. The brothers married their sisters. Osiris married Isis, and Set married Nephthys. And Osiris, as firstborn son, succeeded his father to the throne of Egypt. He ruled primitive Egyptians with kindness and educated them, thus laying the foundations of the great civilization they were to become. Set grew jealous of Osiris and murdered him, dismembered his brother's body, scattered the pieces across Egypt, and seated himself on the throne. Isis, with the help of her sister Nephthys and the gods Anubis and Thoth, located the pieces of her husband, gathered them together, and mummified his body, thus restoring him to life. Rather than return to the earth, however, Osiris became the eternal ruler of the realm of the afterlife, the netherworld or Duat. Meanwhile, Horus, the son of Osiris and Isis, avenged his father by defeating Set and becoming king in his father's place. From then on, the living pharaoh of Egypt embodied the spirit of Horus, while his deceased father became a new Osiris. That's the background for, again, the Book of the Dead. So here is another subpart in the introduction, which literally states the Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead grew out of a long tradition of funerary texts, the first examples of which are known as the pyramid texts because they were written on the walls of the burial chambers in the pyramids of the pharaohs of the Old Kingdom. The earliest known example was discovered in the pyramid of King Unas or Saqqara and dates from around 2345 BC. The purpose of the pyramid texts was to help the deceased pharaoh take his place among the gods, and to this end, they included hymns, prayers, and magical spells to ward off the dangers encountered in the afterlife. Initially, they were exclusively for royal use, but in the declining years of the Old Kingdom, the right to use them was assumed by regional governors and other high ranking officials, for they too wished to become identified with Osiris, who lived on as ruler in the netherworld. A new corpus of funerary text emerged during the Middle Kingdom. The coffin texts, which, as their name implies, were written on the inner surface of wooden coffins. These texts included spells drawn from the pyramid text, plus many new compositions. Some of them also included illustrations. When coffins changed from rectangular wooden boxes to a shape that followed the contours of the mummified body, the texts were written on a papyrus, which was rolled up and placed in the coffin with the deceased. Many thousands of these papyri were produced during the New Kingdom, by which time the Book of the Dead had passed into widespread use. The title Book of the Dead was first coined in 1842 by Richard Lepsius, the German Egyptologist, but it has been suggested that a more appropriate title would be Spells for the Coming Forth by Day, for its purpose was to enable the deceased to emerge safely from the tomb in a perfected spiritualized form. Nowadays, the term Book of the Dead usually refers to the entire corpus of almost 200 chapters of spells, from which a selection was made for inclusion in individual papyri. Although the format for presenting the selected chapters became more or less standardized, the order in which they were arranged varied from one papyrus to another. Coming forth by day. The ancient Egyptians believed that the individual human being was compounded of several elements. The Keperu, meaning modes or manifestations of human existence, which disintegrated at death. These elements included the physical body, or Khat, Khat, the heart, Ib, believed to be the seat of the mind or intelligence, the name, Ren, which constituted the individuality of the deceased and was thus essential for his or her continued existence in the afterlife, the shadow, Shut, which was also related to the individuality of the deceased but was able to separate itself from the body and enjoy independent freedom of movement. The life force or spirit, Ka, which remained in the tomb with the body of the deceased and was nourished with the constant supply of offerings. The soul or spirit, Ba, depicted in vignettes as a small bird with a human head, which was free to visit the world of the living during the day, returning to the tomb at sunset. The disintegration of these diverse elements was prevented through the mummification of the body, a process by which the deceased was transformed into a divine or spiritual form known as the Sah, S-A-H. When the mummy was placed in the tomb, it was believed to enter the Duat, or netherworld, where it underwent two ceremonial rituals: the weighing of the heart and the opening of the mouth. The first of these was a form of judgment of the life of the deceased, whereby his or her heart was placed in a scale and weighed against a feather, symbolizing Ma'at. The ceremony was supervised by the jackal headed Anubis and the ibis headed Thoth, who wrote down the outcome. If the heart passed this test, the deceased could continue their passage through the Duat. If it failed, it was eaten by Amit, the devourer. The second ritual, which was performed by a priest, involved touching yeah, I lost my place. Touching the face. Dang it. There we are. Involved touching the facial covering of the mummy with one or more ceremonial instruments, thereby unstopping the mouth, eyes, ears, and nostrils of the deceased so that they regain the use of these faculties. The opening of the mouth was of great importance since it enabled the deceased to recite the hymns and prayers written on the papyrus. It also enabled them to address by name the gods it would encounter in the duat and respond correctly to their questioning. Other items placed in the tomb with the mummy included the canopic jars, which contained the preserved internal organs of the deceased, a supply of offerings for the gods and the Ka, and several small figures, saptis, whose function was to help the deceased perform laborious tasks in the afterlife, such as plowing the land in the fields of peace/reeds. If the deceased followed the instructions of the papyrus and recited its hymns and spells, they would become an Ak, a blessed spirit, and leaving the mummy in the tomb, they would join the gods Osiris and Ra. The Papyrus of Ani. The Papyrus of Ani, which dates from around 1275 BC, was found at Thebes and purchased by the British Museum in 1888. Ani was overseer of the double granary of the Lord of Tower, and his wife Tutu was a chantress in the temple of Amun. His papyrus is one of the longest known manuscripts of the Book of the Dead, measuring 23.5 meters or 77 feet high in length, and contains over 77 feet high, 77 feet in length, and contains over 60 chapters of spells. Many of these chapters are illustrated with richly colored vignettes depicting the various stages of Ani's journey through the Duat towards the paradisal field of reeds. The majority of the text is written in black ink, while red ink is used for chapter headings and instructions or the rubrics to be followed by the deceased. The papyrus begins with Ani, accompanied by his wife, offering praise to the sun god Ra and to Osiris, lord and ruler of the Duat. Subsequent vignettes show the ceremonies of the weighing of the heart and the opening of the mouth, Ani's funeral procession, and the placing of his mummified body in the tomb, and his meetings with various gods in the course of his journey through the Duat. The papyrus culminates with Ani's arrival in the fields of peace, or reeds. The translation of the papyrus of Ani, presented in the following pages, is by E.A. Wallace Budge, keeper of the Department of Egyptian and Assyrian Antiquities from 1894 to 1924. As well as enlarging the museum's Egyptian collections, Budge wrote many books that did much to stimulate popular interest in ancient Egypt. His translation of the Papyrus of Ani, which was published under the title The Egyptian Book of the Dead, included many variant chapters from other manuscripts and numerous appendices, all of which have been omitted in this edition. He also inserted copious footnotes, some of which have been retained in shortened form alongside a few new ones. John Baldock. So that is the introduction. Again, it gives the background of the plates in their future, the different ceremonies. It describes what's happening, what's going on. And as we are reading now, where we are in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, we are in Ani's movement towards the field of reeds. And yeah, that's where I am. That was the introduction once again. And I will be back tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'd be nice if y'all came out and hang out with me again to listen to me read a little bit of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I read this many years ago, but I wanted to do it again because I'm getting a lot of, a lot more information, things that are a bit more relevant to some of the things that I've done in my life, and it helps certain things make a bit more sense. I have a better understanding of what all has happened. So I'll continue to read. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or if you would like, or if you have a recommendation of a book that you would like me to read, by all means, shoot it to me via TikTok or Gmail. You can Gmail me at this is one word, the family bloodline, or FBL podcast at gmail.com, so that I can continue reading. So again, this is not my personal faith. It's just a continuation of research that I like doing. Summertime Creations, how you doing? You are welcome. You are very much welcome. I appreciate you for hanging out with me. I hope you and your family are doing well, and that baby is getting big, I bet. Uh, Hope y'all are doing well out there on the West Coast. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all tonight. So again, if there are any books that you would like me to read, and or something that you've been researching, by all means, send it to me so that I can jump on it. Um, once I get finished with this, again, I'm going to read another book. I'm bouncing back and forth between reading a book about black holes, because I am a geek in that field, or reading about a book about Freemasonry, which I am a part of. I am a part of the craft. And anything that I read from that book will be a first time read for myself. So I'll be able to give real time opinions as my journeys have taken me, as far as my journeys in Freemasonry has taken me, or have taken me, as to what I think, I feel, so on and so forth, about whatever we're reading. So hey, I appreciate everybody for coming through and hanging out with me. I'm about to take a break. I might jump back on here again in a little bit, but it would be for a different topic. We'll see. But hey, thank y'all for hanging out with me. God bless.